Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
So, I had a fun thing I did yesterday. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but it was fun for me. So, I was over at my girlfriend Sarah's family's lake house, and we were looking to get snacks, and the consensus snack we got was a whole big bag of candy. And I honed in on the best candy in small doses, which is Butterfingers.
It's a good candy.
That is a good candy. It gets stuck in your teeth, though.
It does.
Yeah, it gets stuck in your teeth, and if you get one that ends up at all crushed in the bag, which sometimes happens, like in the individual wrapper, it becomes almost impossible to eat, and you have to do like the thing where you're like actually licking the wrapper out.
No, so actually, key to that one, if that happens, what you do is you then fully crush it, then open one end and just pour it in like a tube.
Ugh. I don't like that. I don't like that. So, what I did in this particular instance, so, as you know, individual small candies are not labeled for retail sale, and they say it right on there. But this particular Butterfinger says, for nutritional info, call this number. And I was just so curious. I was like, if I call this number, I imagine it's just going to be an automated message. But like, is it
just
possible?
Some guy sitting there
Some
waiting.
guy's job is like, I have all of the nutritional facts listed like on a cubicle. And I was a couple drinks in, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go and grab this call this number. And what I got was not a pre-recorded message of the nutritional facts. What I got was this guy doing the worst Dracula impression I've ever heard. And he's like, I see you are enjoying our Halloween candy.
Okay.
And it's like, it's this pre-recorded message, which is like half advertisement of Halloween candy in a Dracula voice, and half like, for nutritional information, please press 3.
I listened to it too because, you know, Marcus let us know about this when it happened because, I mean, how could you not, you know? And yeah, it was a surprisingly bad impersonation. You're right. Like it was actually staggering, honestly.
How many calls do you think he gets every day?
I don't know. What baffles me is how this came to exist in the first place. Like, so I get it. They're like, nutritional information, we can't fit it on the little wrappers. My first thought would just be a website URL. You never have to do anything else after that, right? Like, you would think that would be done. But no, we want people to be able to call a number.
Is this, because I've never really checked individual wrappers before, is this like normal?
No, it is not normal. It's like, it either says, not labeled for individual sale, or it says, not labeled for nutritional sale, check out our website for nutritional information.
Also, if someone calls like a half a year from now, is it still going to be Halloween stuff?
That adds to the puzzle to me, because someone must have sat down and been like, we're going to do a telephone system, and I'm going to populate this telephone system, and I'm not just going to read it off this thing. So someone somewhere in an office is like, I'm getting in the Halloween spirit. I know. I'll change the intro to the nutritional facts.
So you don't think that was company policy to do the Dracula voice?
Whether it is or it isn't, how does that happen?
So here's actually an important question. So, you know, how many people in the world, aside from like employees of whatever fucking candy company, I can't remember who makes Butterfingers, Nestle, I don't know, whatever, have actually heard this message?
Ooh, that's a good I wish I could like ask Google how many calls got made to a certain number and it would tell me.
Yeah, but
honestly,
like, it can't be high, right?
What I should have done is called the operator.
Oh yeah,
and been like, hey, have you talked to anyone today? Or this week? And they're like, actually, no, this is gym and accounting. I have a whole nother job.
We didn't know this number worked.
I didn't know my phone was connected to this.
I mean, he's probably super excited to talk to you because that's like the only call he got.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I could get a good person I feel like I get a good conversation on the phone. The problem is, I did hit the nutritional information to see if the nutritional information was like actually a Dracula thing, because I want to hear a Dracula be like, citric acid, ascorbic acid, potassium phosphate.
The thing is,
which would have been,
well, you're kind of dating this episode because we're recording before Halloween, but this is going to air after.
Yeah, I guess I am dating. I mean, I can't imagine they would update it. I don't think November 1st is going to be fucking Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Right.
People at home, if you have a Butterfingers wrapper, call the number, see if it's still Dracula.
Let us know, because we're not going to remember by the time this comes out.
Are you kidding me? I'm going to be telling everybody about this all week, and then someone will be like, well, what is it now? And I'll be like, I don't know. Let's find out. But, yeah, that was just, when life gives you an opportunity like that, make the call. Don't let it sit there. Find out who is the Dracula figure in your life.
The Butterfinger Dracula.
Oh God, that's a really upsetting.
I don't know why it is, but it really is not.
Butterfinger is really a very disturbing phrase in any context but candy.
This is true.
And it's not great in candy either.
Because it has the word finger in it.
Yeah, why is finger involved?
Ugh.
Nestle, I have the questions.
Okay, we're moving. We gotta move on
Let's
from
move
Butterfingers.
on.
I can talk about this all day.
I don't want to.
You Butterfinger podcast.
This is the better Butterfinger podcast. Question: what if animals were as smart as humans? That is what we're here to answer today. Ben, do it. Do the thing. Our podcast, not the Butterfinger podcast, the question podcast.
That was a very aggressive asking of the question.
Let me change my notes back to the animals part, not the Butterfinger part, Marcus. That's a bit of a left, out of left field there, but whatever. Okay. So yeah, so what if animals were as smart as humans? So the sort of what I started thinking about then was communication, because obviously if they're as smart as we're going to want to talk to them and have them talk to us, because that's a thing that we do with things that are as smart as us, I guess. It just makes sense. So the first thing to go down, obviously, is just like vocalization, actual talking. That's sort of the first thing I want to figure out was just how, because the simplest solution obviously is just teach them to speak. Like, they obviously won't know how to speak when it first happens, but we could teach them if they're as smart as us, because you can teach people new languages, So my first question was sort of, what animals can actually produce human-like sounds? Because any of them could theoretically learn English, whatever language they want to learn. And actually, there have been a few different animals that can do this. So there was an orangutan back in the 60s named Tilda, who could emulate human speech.
Ooh.
This one was kind of... So I listened to most of these, the ones that like had recordings of them. This one was kind of iffy. It was one of those ones where it was like the actual description I saw was like, she could use vowel and consonant-like sounds in a human-like rhythm. So
what's a consonant-like sound?
Yeah, I could kind of see what they meant, but it wasn't the most compelling one, I guess.
Yeah, that's like me being like, yeah, this is a podcast of me almost speaking Japanese.
Right, exactly. So then there was a beluga whale named Nock in the Vancouver Aquarium, who died in 1999, who basically could overinflate his nasal cavities and then make human-like sounds. This one was even more of a stretch. I'm not going to really give this one credit, but it was listed and I felt like I should mention it. By some definition of human-like, I guess.
Maybe he could speak, but he just refused to, because the only thing they would try to teach him was knock-knock jokes.
That could be it, actually. That could very much be it. Third, obviously, like parrots. No shit. Like, that one, they don't understand what they're saying, but they can already do it. So, parrots, obviously. Fun fact, the reason that parrots can do that, apparently they have a very like complicated like throat and tongue musculature. They can just like super like modify their vocal passage to make the sounds. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, my grandmother actually has an African parrot, the super smart one, and it definitely picked up some words. But it's funny because she lived with her sister, and sometimes they'll use more colorful language, and then the bird will curse when people are over, and she's like, I don't know where he gets it. It's like, well, I do. I've got an idea.
Yeah, maybe a bit of an idea. Yeah,
he must have come with these words,
right? Yeah, the factory, And then so next there was an elephant. This one actually is really cool. So obviously elephants don't have like lips, or, you know, a mouth structure the way that we do. But there was an elephant named Koshik, I want to say, in Korea. I don't remember which Korea. I'm going to guess South Korea. Otherwise, we wouldn't have heard about it. Hey.
Hey, topical North Korea jokes?
Topical North Korea joke. But basically, its trainers would speak words in Korean, obviously. And then it would repeat them by putting the tip of its trunk into its mouth and modulate its vocal tract that way. Like by pushing on it with its trunk.
That's cool.
And this one is freaky. He like matches their voice exactly. It is honestly kind of disturbing. Cause like they will say a word and he'll sort of say it. And then like they'll say it another time and he'll say it a couple more times and he'll get closer and closer until he's like exactly echoing them. It's actually kind of bizarre. That one's actually pretty cool. But elephants pretty clearly could, you know, they could definitely learn to speak if they.
Oh my god!
were
I have a great mental image now of them taking over like the voiceover industry, and just like you just have this elephant like go into like the recording studio and like gets a script. Like he's got like headphones in, he gets a script, and he just like puts his like trunk like in his mouth, like down his throat. I don't know what you're talking about exactly.
Yeah. In his mouth, and then all of a sudden he's Morgan Freeman.
It's like they can't afford Morgan Freeman, so they get an elephant to do it instead.
And it's just so this elephant just goes in and just like in a world.
But it takes him a couple tries, and it's like elephant sounds, and then it's like half elephant sound, half Morgan Freeman, and then suddenly it just is Morgan Freeman.
I like to imagine that Morgan Freeman is the halfway point between the elephant sound and any other vocalization. Like they have to go through Morgan Freeman.
Right, exactly. And then finally, the last one, and this is one that I think is just really cool, and I really enjoy a lot. So there was a seal. In 1971, there was an orphan harbor seal pup adopted by this couple in Maine. They kept it in their bathtub, and then it got too big for that. They put it in a pond. And then eventually got too big for the pond, like it was back behind their house, and they gave it to the New England Aquarium in Boston. And the owner, when he gave it to them, said that he thought the seal could talk. And obviously no one believed him because that's an absurd thing. That makes, just no.
That's just an absurd hypothetical.
Exactly, yeah. And then a few years later, the seal's name, by the way, was Hoover because it ate like a vacuum cleaner, apparently. I don't know. And a few years later, and I want to point out, this was in the article I read about him, Hoover reached sexual maturity, and apparently at that point started speaking more clearly, and most importantly, with a Boston accent. And he said a number of phrases including, hey, hello there, how are ya, get out of here, get down, and his own name.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
What if you're in an aquarium with a seal just like, get out of here?
How are ya? So that's a thing, apparently. So apparently even seals can learn to speak with accents.
So the New England Aquarium, if they were that smart, would actually just be a bunch of seals being like, get out of here.
Exactly, yeah. They should definitely be doing that because that sounds incredible. And so actually one of the things that I learned, that it turns out that what actually stops a lot of animals from being able to speak, like as in speak human-like, is actually the brain. It's not actually necessarily a physical thing. Basically, there's a set of like 50 genes that actually control the ability of the speech control center of the brain to learn to make new sounds. And like from there, control the vocal tract muscles to actually be able to reproduce those sounds. So like it was really interesting because the same set of genes that allow us to learn language and everything are the exact same genes that are working in like birds to learn songs, which I thought was just like fascinating that was the same. But what I'm wondering is if all of a sudden animals have human intelligence, I would imagine that actually a pretty large number, like way more than we'd actually expect, would be able to just learn to speak. Maybe not, as clearly as we do, but definitely understandably. There's things like, people talk about like hyenas being able to make human-like sounds. Like, I bet a lot of animals could actually do that.
Would they have like the mouth structure to like say our words?
Not all of them. So that is the thing. There are definitely some limitations. So definitely some animals that wouldn't be able to. Like a lot of birds wouldn't be able to, just because they don't have, like parrots can, but they have weird ass giant tongue and like crazy throat muscles apparently. But like a lot of birds just don't have, they have like a beak.
I'm just like imagining like a crocodile trying to speak.
Right. Like that one might be a little rough. But beyond that, there are still some other options. One of them is sign language, not just standard like ASL, obviously, because a lot of animals don't have opposable thumbs or the same number of fingers as us. So we need to find out, some like simplified version. But I'm pretty sure you could make like a relatively, livably complete version of sign language using like 3 fingers, maybe.
Yeah, or like a slightly less shitty version of Morse code.
Right, that's it. Yeah, Morse code is sort of like the ending point where like most things can communicate in Morse code in some way, either through there's like 2 different kinds of vocalizations or whatever. But yeah, I think sign language actually. I think 3 fingers actually gets you a pretty good amount of the way of like most things being able to communicate. And you can put just like the basic words and stuff in like 3 fingers and more complicated things in multiple fingers and then, go from there. And the other thing is I think actually writing is going to be surprisingly simple because like basically anything with a claw, I was kind of thinking you could sort of dull down one claw to use for like writing and just like have like inkwells around or something or like, something like that. And then most things will be able to actually like write relatively easily. Obviously, insert chicken scratch joke here, but it would work. I think also technically, similarly, you could probably use touchscreens, not just like initially, but if you had like a like if they were capacitive and you had like a sleeve that goes onto the claw or something, they could totally use touchscreens, which could get us pretty far too. In like a, customer service situation, you could just like type in what you needed or whatever.
My customer service rep seemed crabby.
Which is strange because he was a lobster. Hey. That was really dumb. Speaking of which, the one big spot that I had trouble with that I could not find an answer was water creatures in general.
I was going to ask
fish.
that.
I have no idea. Fish are a huge blind spot.
Yeah, fish.
Because they
are
like
kind of screwed.
They like don't make sound and they have no limbs. So I don't really know. I don't know what you expect them to do.
They have to do an intricate dance.
Yeah.
I kind of have just at the trail end of my notes. I just have this written. I'm not sure where exactly I was planning on going with this, but it says, if animals are smart enough, they'll start using and making tools. Not only that, they'll probably make structures among other things. And if you were a smart businessman, you may notice they'd want smartphones. So I guess you could like make a fish harness with like a cell phone at the end that they could like peck at, like if they pull their fins back and like hit it with their mouth.
I guess, yeah.
You'd have to like have it like dangle in front of them.
Right.
I guess it'd be like a bone on like a stick sort of thing. And they could like tap at it, I guess.
Yeah, they just peck at it. Yeah. I mean, they'll figure it out. They're pretty smart now.
Right? Well, they're only as smart as humans, so maybe it doesn't actually get them that far.
Oh, damn!
Hey,
self-burn! Self-species burn.
That's the best we could come up with was that harness thing, so...
So clearly... Anyway, that's kind of what I have. I think really what it comes down to is I think a lot of them will actually be able to speak more than I expected. And then beyond that, yeah, like sign language and writing, I think will get you pretty far. So, Chris, what did you do?
So for this question, I looked at food because right now we eat a lot of animals, but there's some animals that we don't eat just because like they're more intelligent. So we don't eat like monkeys, we don't eat dolphins because they're more intelligent. And I guess we like feel guilty about it or something.
Or they just don't taste very good. Who knows?
And like PETA, they're like PETA issues and stuff. So, and we actually question like sometimes pigs come into question as to whether they're smart enough for us to not eat. Like if they're too smart. There's actually a weird study, like the result of the study were that pigs are better at playing video games than babies. I don't know exactly what the like.
How do you do that? How do you get funding for this study?
Yeah, I don't know what the study entailed, But that was the conclusion of the study.
That's
I
incredible.
thought you'd have to do like a real thing to get science money. I didn't know you could just
Apparently
fucking
not.
throw some iPads in a pig pen with babies and just hope it goes there.
What game do you have babies and pigs play?
So I did see the game that the pigs were playing. It was like a touch screen. They like projected something onto a wall, and there was like a colorful ball thing, and they would like chase
like
the
grab the
ball.
ball.
Yeah, it like lit up when they touched it and stuff as like a reward.
Got it.
But I don't know where the baby part came in because they didn't show any babies. I guess babies can't do that.
Right.
Yeah, so if all animals were intelligent, I think we just wouldn't eat animals at all. We'd feel guilty about it, and
Probably, yeah.
like animal rights would be like a main issue. So that's the first thing, is people would feel bad about it. Second thing is animals definitely wouldn't approve of it.
Right.
So they would be advocates. They'd have like representation probably. We'd need some sort of like animal UN sort of thing where like each species has their own representation. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be tricky because the way the food chain goes, there's less of predators than there is prey.
Yeah.
So if you do it just by a vote, the prey's gonna win out every time.
Well, yeah, I'll get to that later, sort of.
But it's sort of okay.
I don't, because this like UN organization thing is going to be giant just because there's so many species in the world. There's 8.7 million species in the world. So I don't know
Wow,
exactly how this organization's going to work.
Maybe do it by like genus.
Yeah, there are 500,000 genus in the world.
No, this helps a little bit, I guess, but
Helps a little bit. You could go super broad and go with phylum. There's 32 phylum in the world for animals. So that's more manageable, I guess, but it's also super broad.
right.
And then I don't know, there'd be like political systems within each community to see who represents them. It'd be really weird.
You know, definitely. Weird is going to apply to most of what we say in this, actually, this podcast in general. You haven't picked up on that yet, listener, so
Yeah.
there you go.
And then I guess we'd have like a human representative too, which
Right.
would be the president, maybe? I don't know if it'd be the
I
president.
want to see like Trump get into a heated argument with a
With
gorilla.
a fish.
With a fish. Yeah. A fish, a marmoset, and a spider walk into the UN. they're distinguished representatives of their species.
Yeah. And then Marcus brought up the food chain. So animals, I would guess, because we feel guilty about eating intelligent animals, so I would assume that all other animals, if they're as intelligent as us, they're going to feel guilty as well. So just no animals are going to eat any other animals. We're not going to eat animals. The problem is some animals have to eat animals to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
They're carnivores that can't digest vegetation. There's actually 3 types of carnivores. There's hypercarnivores, which 70% of their diet or more includes meat. Mesocarnivores, which is 50%, and hypocarnivores, which is less than 30%. So meso and hypo might be okay, but the hypercarnivores are screwed. And I don't know exactly how this would work because no matter what you do, some innocent animal is going to die probably. So either the carnivores are going to starve or you're going to like eat some innocent animal. You
Right.
could have like, maybe they could eat like criminals or something. So like if there's a murderer that's on death row or something, then you could feed it to the carnivores.
So you just go back to medieval fucking.
Yeah, but it's out of
justice systems.
necessity.
I guess you could donate. You know how you can donate your body to science? You could donate your body to like nutrition.
Oh, there are some animals that regenerate, so maybe they donate
Oh
their
yeah, maybe that's
arm
a
or
job.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like and for real though, like you could have a. It's the same way you can be like an organ donor, just on your little animal ID card or whatever.
Yeah, it's like you donate blood every once in a while. You just
Yeah.
donate your arm.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my god, blood banks are gonna get complicated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That is, you got to keep them separate.
You gotta keep them separated. All right, anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Had to. I'm required by law. I'm sorry.
So I I didn't really consider that body donating thing. I assumed it was based on this criminal thing. So if you have a lot of criminals, then your carnivores are fine. But if the crime rate gets really low, which is usually what we aim for, then the carnivores are kind of screwed. So you'd have to have there'd be some sort of voting system, I guess, where we vote which innocent animals die. Because someone's going to die.
Is this a literal Hunger Game situation?
This one pretty optimistic to pretty pessimistic, like without like very subtly. Where it was at start off, it's like, okay, so animals are gonna be smart and not want to eat each other, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. I thought actually, and now we're animals are definitely gonna have to eat each other. And they're not gonna, whether they want to or not. It's gonna be a murder party.
If we kind of just like turn our heads away and let all the carnivores die, then everyone is fine. Then it's just a bunch of vegans running around and we're all happy. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Carnivores are going to die. And Marcus, what do you have?
Before we get into mine, I was actually real-time fact-checking because it didn't sit with me that we don't eat dolphins. So typically people don't eat dolphins, but some people do, including people on the tropical island of St. Vincent where they can legally hunt and eat dolphins.
Oh.
The reason you don't do it very often is because the higher up the marine food chain you go, the more mercury is in the diet of those fish.
Oh, right.
And so
yeah.
if you eat a bunch of dolphins, you're going to get mercury poisoning and you're going to die. And then you're going to donate your body to nutrition and it's going to be awkward. The very rare fact check on our show. So yeah, I was looking at the political a little bit with these animals. And I realized, I think the issue the animals are going to care about most and want to participate in is climate change. Because we're pretty adaptable, but not all the animals are. And as mad as some people are about, what we're doing to the planet, I think there's going to be some animals who are way more pissed. So to find out which ones those were going to be, I kind of just looked at which animals are getting hurt most by the environment, which was a depressing afternoon. But
Right.
You said my answer is depressing.
yeah, so I didn't promise mine would be better. So basically, to looking at animal protests, and which ones we got to worry about, really. So the first one on my list is turtles. They're not super threatening, but they kind of get screwed over by like all the different industrialization and environmental things. Like they don't like the warmer seas. They just die to straws all the time and the plastic in the ocean. But one thing that actually ruins turtles the most is the temperature of the sand. So what happens is the sex of a turtle is determined by the temperature of the sand it is laid in.
Wait,
Really?
what?
That's interesting.
So there's like a few degrees in the cooler area where in this range you get all males. And then skip a couple degrees, and after that you get all females. And there's only like 2 or 3 degrees in between. And it's actually fairly common for entire, like that whole beach of turtles to all be one gender.
Right.
So what happens in the in-between?
So the in-between, it's like this or that. So it's a mix in the in-between. I'm not sure if they actually like plan seasonally, like to get, boy turtles and female turtles. But what happens to turtles now as global warming hits is it gets warmer and warmer and warmer, and they're getting proportionally and very quickly more proportionally more females than male turtles around. Which is a problem for, keeping your population going.
Right.
And so I was thinking about Turtle Mob, and they're not super threatening. But it's not the only reptile where this happens. One that might be a more immediate concern is this is also true for crocodiles. All species of crocodiles.
Okay.
So that one I'm a little bit more worried about on my daily, on my day-to-day if all crocodiles are mad at all humans. A couple other candidates that are getting affected by the global change. Polar bears. Now they know who to be mad at, because for a polar bear, the difference in having ice and not having ice is the difference between eating seals and apparently goose eggs is what they make up for it when they have to like be on actual land.
Oh.
So I think polar bears like the ice.
Also, they're going to want some of that Coca-Cola money. Coca-Cola's been, profiting from, polar bear imagery for so long.
Yeah.
Oh god, they can sue now.
They can
They
sue
can
now.
sue.
I didn't even think about the legal aspects of all of this. That's going to be
A lot of commercials are gonna, or a lot of companies are gonna get screwed.
Geico.
The Taco Bell
animals.
Chihuahua is going to come out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah.
Another animal that likes the ice. Which I actually didn't find. I don't have an exact reason here why they like the ice, but narwhals, in case you want to go swimming. I don't want to go swimming in a sea of angry narwhals. And the last animal that was probably pretty threatening if they're angry is elephants. Are pretty affected because they need between 40 and 80 gallons of water a day.
That is a lot of water.
And as the Earth heats up, there's less water in these places that they live.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about, you talk about angry mobs, like, damaging property and whatnot. But, a human can't, like, knock down a tree like an elephant can.
Right.
The thing is, if these animals are as smart as humans, are they going to be using the tools that we use and contributing to global warming as well?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think a polar bear, like a human should, the polar bear would be like, oh, we're lowering up the climate with these fossil fuels. Maybe we don't do that anymore. Maybe I go around and destroy cars until they stop making them.
Well, the way I interpreted this question is they basically think like humans.
I mean, they're as smart as humans. They have different priorities. Like,
I guess.
A polar bear likes it cold. And frankly, I think humans should have a priority not to ruin the planet, too. But if you get a whole, was it 7.3 million, whatever it is? New fresh minds looking at it for the first time might logically think that cars aren't so great after all.
Now I'm seeing in my mind, I was thinking about, like, there's going to be, like, rebels and all these groups, too, that, like, are pro-global warming because people are fucking weird. And now I'm seeing in my mind, like, goth polar bears that dye their fur black.
It's like, I'm a grizzly bear
I'm a grizzly bear. Did you just assume my species?
Species. Yeah, it's gotta be fucking, like, there were just so many implications. It got buck wild, like, if you actually think about, like, once these species start interacting with each other.
Yeah.
But I think the most affected and the saddest one of all the animals is coral is technically an animal.
Oh, no.
And we actually are just straight fucked with coral. Like, if we, do what the climate reports say and shut off all our, emissions to the levels that they need to be, at best case scenario, we lose 80% of the coral in the world.
Yeesh.
And, like, the average case, if we continue what we're doing, it's all dead. Like, 95% of the coral is dead. So the coral will just switch to being smart enough to know what's happening to it as it helplessly dies a slow death.
Huh. Way to be a downer, Marcus.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe we should just hit a commercial break and, reset with the more preppier question. Is that what we have next?
Everyone remember that seal that has a Boston accent? That was sure fun.
Get out of here.
Hey, how are you?
Get out of here. Get out of here.
This week's ads are away on sabbatical. Instead, jam out to these tunes.
So it seems that I've been rather foolish for some time, trying to chase a life, the dreams you left behind. You told me go on a sea where they might lead you in the end. You never know until you've seen it all for yourself. Never mind, let's track of time, letting the love my die slip through, trying to recall all of the memories I've shared with you. Still I'm struggling to see what it is that I could be, 'cause I just can't forget, no I can't let it go. 'Cause now I remember everything, and the way you looked at me, but I just can't forget, no I can't let it go. My thoughts run wild like a child when I'm alone there with you. All my worries in the world are blown far away in the wind. So maybe I just need to find a place where we can both walk beside each other in our arms together and never stray too far. Still I'm struggling to see what it is that I could be, but I just can't forget, no I can't let it go. 'Cause now I remember everything, and the way you looked at me, but I just can't forget it. No, I can't let it go.
Welcome back, everybody. And I checked, and we're going to do a question that is way less of a downer than our previous one. This one's fun.
You checked?
I checked what question we were doing, because I'd forgotten, even though it's in front of me in my notes.
Okay.
So, the question we are doing is, what if gravity had no effect on you? So, this is just, it's not everybody. This hypothetical is just you personally.
Just you.
Just
no
you.
objects are affected. Your clothes aren't affected.
Yeah, your clothes and objects still have gravity and effect, but just basically the mass that makes up your body is not attracted by gravity, is not affected by the forces of gravity. So I think for me, the first and immediate problem is balance, because you are now a floaty boy and it's hard to stay upright. So I wanted to check, would you just be like dizzy all the time? Because there's 3 ways that your body figures out its balance and orientation. Is 1, visual, so you look around and your brain processes that. 2, your muscles, so like the weight of shifting between your feet and stuff like that, so your body has like some of that built in. And the important one is your inner ear. So in your inner ear is basically like a little globe or bowl or whatever with liquid in it, and based on how that sloshes around with the gravity, like if you turn your head, it'll move up one side of the bowl and get lower on the other one, and your brain can pick that up and say, oh, now I'm leaning that way.
It's basically like a level with a little bubble.
Yeah, that's a much better analogy than my bowl and liquid. Imagine a bowl of tomato soup in your ear. So if gravity's not affecting your inner ear, your body is going to get all sorts of weird signals, which often causes nausea. And so I was like, well, how does that work? And then remember that people actually go to space and this actually happens to them. And so it turns out what happens with your inner ear is that for a couple days, your body hates it. And you can be dizzy or motion sick and all the regular stuff. But then after like those 2 or 3 days,
actually really quickly,
your body just...
one thing in those 2 or 3 days, I think I saw that was related. Apparently, some astronauts reported that in this period, sometimes they will, like, when they're sleeping, they'll wake up and not be able to figure out where their arms and legs are, like, in relation to the rest of their body. Apparently, like, that gets screwed up, too.
Weird.
Which I thought was just, like, super weird. I had to interject that, so continue.
Yeah, so after 2 or 3 days, your body adapts and basically just like, okay, that part of my balance is not working. I'm just going to literally ignore all the signals from the inner ear from now on. And then after that, astronauts can't actually get dizzy when they're free floating in space anymore. The guy was actually like, it came up as one of those like NASA questions where like the astronauts try to, AMA type thingamajigs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he did was the astronaut just got up, like curled up, and then just did like as fast as he could, like a million front flips. And like just in the middle of the room spinning, like cartwheeling, and then stopped. And he's like, okay, so I was like lightheaded, like slight dizzy for like half a second, and then it went away. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I'm like watching you and about to barf. So your brain just basically like, this isn't working, and it just relies on the other senses of sight and
muscles,
your muscle balance. So you won't actually be nauseous all the time, which is a great start to this question being positive.
Right.
But it's not, doesn't mean that balance is easy. So I think the biggest problem you're going to have is just carrying things. So normally when you carry something, your center of mass, is like right in your stomach, and then you carry something and it shifts slightly and it's not a problem. But if you weigh nothing and you're carrying something on your side, your center of gravity is wherever the thing is that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And what basically it means, if you draw a free body diagram, which is kind of a funny term when your body is free from gravity.
Right.
But saving that one is, if your thing that you're carrying is outside of your feet, like your footprint, you fall over.
So you basically have to hold everything right above your head. Like, exactly above your head.
Or hold two matching things to either side of you.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And like, so at first, when I first thought about it, I was like, okay, so you just have to hold things between your feet. It's not that big a problem. But that's 2D. In 3D, your feet create just a line. So you basically have at most your foot width. The center of gravity has to be directly above it, or you fall over. So I think you're basically fucked carrying anything. Like, even carrying things on either side of you, like it has to be 100% perfectly balanced, and you don't have your inner ear to help you out with that. So I think you need some kind of like Doc Ock contraption to give yourself, like, either tripod it or like more legs, like a centaur type thing, and then you can carry things within that footprint. So yeah, basically whatever shape you can make with your legs or supports is what you can hold.
Oh, you should have a walking stick all the time.
The problem with the walking stick, Ben, is that you're still gonna fall over.
But it will tether you to the ground at least. You just hold on to the walking stick.
How do you hold the walking stick?
Yeah, like you're gonna put it down.
You have to pick it up somehow. Usually you pick up a walking stick and then put it down, then pick it up and then put it down.
You can do that works.
But every time you pick it up, you're gonna be very off balance. I don't think
that's true.
It just doesn't work.
You need one of those like rolly walking things. I don't know what they're called.
A walker?
Yeah.
But like a baby one with wheels.
Right.
Oh yeah, you could get one of those seat things that babies have with the wheels where you can just walk in the seat.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. The little like the little scooting things. Yeah.
Yeah, like strap
There
you
you
in
go.
kind of type thing.
Perfect.
There's ways around it, but it was just the image of like you just picking up literally anything and falling over was great for me.
It is pretty incredible.
I mean, as long as you don't have to pick anything up, you're fine. You just float around.
Yeah, well, it's kind of tricky too, because if you're floating around, you have to like tether yourself to the ground, or you might end up like in space.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if you're wearing clothes, your clothes weigh you down a little bit, right? Just a little bit.
Just don't push off the ground too hard.
Yeah, don't push off to the ground too much. Don't get caught in an updraft.
Right.
Speaking of trying to balance, wind is kind of a problematic addition to your balance equation. So obviously you're trying to resist this overturning spin that, an off-center weight will get you. Wind is going to really make that equation pretty complicated for you to do manually, because a good gust of wind is just going to like knock you over, because a big component of you standing upright in a windy zone is you have this really big, 150-pound downforce that you can wiggle around and adjust to counteract the wind. So without that, there's actually a whole bunch, there's a maximum wind speed that you can be around before it just knocks you over.
So if you stand perfectly perpendicular to the wind, are you okay?
Perfectly perpendicular
No.
to the wind. Why would that make you okay?
Parallel to the wind, excuse me.
Oh.
Well, whichever way it's hitting you, it's going to blow against your body and push you that way.
I mean, you'd be able to brace against it better, but you'd still have a problem probably.
Yeah.
But you can't brace because you have no weight to brace with. Like, the way you brace against the wind is you lean into it.
That's
Well,
true.
But you'd have like an A-frame, sort of, is what I'm saying.
The
Yeah,
A-frame
you're
doesn't
just gonna
really
tip
help
over.
you.
Yeah, it doesn't actually help you that much.
It just tips you over still.
Yeah.
Because the A-frame works if there's a center of gravity
Yeah, I
away
guess that's-
from the
yeah,
center of it.
That's why it works.
If you have like no weight, it literally, I mean, the wind just blows you away anyway. So you need some kind of weight to resist it at all without being just like a tumbleweed. And doing it out, assuming the way it works is basically for every 10 miles an hour of wind, you have about 1 pound per square foot of wind pressure that's pushing you. And so the human body, taking a very rough estimate, is about 10 square foot in area. So if you have, say, a pretty fast wind, like a 40 mile an hour wind, you're going to have actually 40 pounds of force pushing on you. And if it's centered, the wind force is going to be about 3 feet off the ground. So the way the free body diagram works is basically you need to cancel this spinning moment of 40 pounds at 3 feet. So 40 times 3, 120 pounds. And what you're going to do is basically your foot is going to be counteracting that. And if your foot is 1 foot away from you, which is fairly reasonable, you're going to need 120 pounds to counteract the 4 times 30. So you basically need to be carrying triple the weight of the wind in order to not get knocked over by the wind.
Okay.
Which is doable. In Boston, the windiest major city, the average wind speed is 12 miles an hour. So on your basic day, you're carrying around like 40 pounds.
Yeah, that's doable.
I mean, and it's 40 pounds, you don't have to carry your self-weight, so I think carrying 40 pounds is actually pretty easy. You just have to remember to do it.
Right.
Or else you're going to end up in a different city. You might have a different wind speed. But if you're in, say, a thunderstorm with 40 miles an hour is actually like a regular thunderstorm speed, you'll need to be carrying 120 pounds just to not get blown away.
That's less doable.
That's less doable. And never mind, like, actually, like, hurricane force winds. But you really shouldn't be outside in those anyway, especially if you're weightless.
What if you're a weatherman?
Don't be a weatherman.
You can pick any other profession, just don't be a weatherman.
Conclusion: don't be a weatherman. Get some Doc Ock legs, and you're still probably just gonna fall over a lot. Ben, what do you got for this one?
Yeah. So I decided to look into sort of the health ramifications of not having gravity on you, because obviously, you know, we've all heard about like the things that astronauts go through when they're up in the space station or whatever. So, sort of in general, you really have two main. There are a lot of some other like weird health problems where like one of the big ones is like our bodies are evolved in a way that the fluid in our bodies is not distributed evenly. It you know sort of is more towards the ground because of gravity, and our bodies are, you know, prepared for that. But without gravity, the fluid like moves up further into your body, and apparently it's just kind of, it's not like a real health risk. It just makes you look kind of funny for a little while. Apparently.
What?
Apparently it's like
funny.
Well, no, like when people talk about being like moon faced, they're literally talking about like when astronauts first go up, like their faces get bloated because there's just more fluid in their faces.
Whoa.
Yeah. Fun fact. But
I can't
eventually,
decide if this means our bodies are great or bodies are stupid. 'Cause
bodies
it's
are
like,
weird.
It's just like, oh, we don't have gravity, so we're going to put all the fluids up in your face. But my body can just handle a whole bunch of fluids being in the wrong spot.
Right. It's kind of crazy, right? But the two real problems you're going to have, so the first one is bone density. So, you know, your body, basically, there's like two processes your body goes through. Let me actually grab the names of those really quickly. They are, oh man. So it signals osteoblasts and osteoclasts. And osteoblasts, where is
That's
it?
a cool name.
Yeah, osteoblasts.
It's like a wizarding school. Like, oh, I learned how to do osteoblast in my
Osteoblast.
osteoclass.
Right, seriously. Osteoblast basically is what breaks down your bones, and osteoclast rebuilds them. And generally, this is happening all the time in our bodies. It's just they're happening sort of in pairs, you know? So you keep roughly the same amount of bone you started with. But
I don't like that mental
this
image,
is
Ben. Leave my bones alone.
this is all controlled by the basically your body is responding to the stresses on your bones. So when you have less stress on your bones, the bone density goes down. And when you're not affected by gravity, the bones that support, specifically the bones that support the weight of the body, so like your legs, hips, and like the lower part of your spine, will all start losing density. And specifically, they lose it. So there's a NASA study in 2001 that showed a loss of 1 to 2% per month on average. And sort of for comparison, when you get older, you start losing bone density just naturally. But that is about 1 to 1.5% per year. So much more quickly, actually, than just like, your grandmother, you're going to have somewhat brittle bones if you don't try to do, anything to counteract this.
Also, if it's 1 to 2% per month, after about 60 months, you're
not
gonna
gonna
have
have
no
any
bones.
bones.
You have no bones.
You're going to be in bone debt.
Yeah,
I can
you're
only
bone
assume-
dead.
The scariest skeleton, he's in bone dead.
Oh man. So also, not just your bones.
No, can we go back?
We will
to
go
figure out
back to
what
bone debt.
means?
Bone debt.
How do you pay off a bone debt?
You got to get a bone loan.
Yeah, you gotta get it from your boner.
Get on your bone phone. Call up a bone loan.
Get on your bone phone, call up your boner. He's gonna get you some bones.
We're dumb.
What are we talking about?
Space. No, not space. Gravity, and not it. Okay. So beyond just bone density, you'll all start losing muscle mass for basically, the same reason. So, the muscles that your body uses to counteract gravity. So like your calves and quads and then like back and neck muscles specifically will start just deteriorating because you're not using them. I mean, yeah, that's how muscle works. And apparently this one, so another NASA study, they found that if they didn't like exercise while they're up there on a space flight of 5 to 11 days, they would lose around 20% of their muscle mass. So that one actually goes really quickly.
So 5 to 12. So 5 to 12 days lose 20%. So what if they're up there for 25 to 60 days, Ben? Do you go into muscle debt?
Yes. Apparently.
Get a muscle loan.
We're not going to repeat the jokes. You get it.
We're going to repeat
good.
every single one, but just replace the word bone with muscle.
Yeah, so sort of the effect of those. So bone density, you basically just have osteoporosis. So you're going to have like back pain. You're going to get shorter over time because your bones are going to shrink. Your posture will be worse, which actually I don't know if that one's really true because there's no gravity on you. So maybe your posture is just fine, I guess, actually. And sort of the biggest one, the most important one is that most important point is that your bones will fracture much more easily, which is not ideal. So actually, honestly, the rest of them, I think, aren't a huge deal for you most of the time. The fractures, I think, are a very real problem because as Marcus has laid out, you're going to fall over and like hit yourself on things. And pretty soon your legs are going to just be like dry spaghetti. So you're going to kind of want, to sort of avoid that. Muscle mass, honestly, I actually don't think is a huge deal because like these are muscles that by definition you're not using really anymore. So I think it's actually not that much of a problem. Like it's not great still, but you can kind of survive it. Oh, also fun thing with the bone density loss, all that calcium goes into your bloodstream, so you have a higher chance of kidney stones. So that's cool.
Oh, God.
So this is kind of the point where you have a choice to make, which is, are you going to fully commit to the no gravity lifestyle? Because if you are, I don't think you have to worry about, like, the bone part's not great. You're going to have to try to counteract that somewhat, but the muscle mass you can kind of ignore, and most of the bone stuff you can ignore too. If you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to float everywhere. Like, you can just, don't hit your legs, you'll be fine.
You mean, like, you're not going to try to weigh yourself down?
Right, yeah. But I think that's going to be a very difficult life because you can just, like, once again, fly away accidentally pretty easily.
We lost balloon.
So probably what we're going to have to do is basically simulate gravity on yourself. Because, so like the way they counteract these things on like the space station is basically through a large amount of exercise. Apparently people on the space station have 6 days a week, a 2.5 hour time block for exercise, where they do like a stationary bike, a treadmill that they like strap themselves onto, you know, and then something called the ARED. It's the Advanced Resistive Exercise Device. I couldn't get enough details, but I will just read off the passage I have. It basically uses 2 canisters to create small vacuums that astronauts can pull against with a long bar, and they can do like squats and bench presses and stuff like that. I don't understand this vacuum part. I guess the idea is that because you can't use weights, obviously, you know, for very clear reasons in space, they have to like do a weird science instead. And use a vacuum.
Do a science.
Do a science, you know, like you do. But I mean, fortunately,
you're not going to need this because you have just normal weights.
And you just basically what you need is a treadmill and just some weights. But importantly, you are going to have to make it seem like gravity is acting on you at the time in order for your legs to not just like die. So what you can do is get a weighted vest. So weighted vests people use like in like endurance running training. They'll just put on a vest that has like man, I am starting to go a little loopy, guys. This is fun. Has like 20 pounds or whatever of weight in it just to like increase the resistance on yourself and like, you know, get benefits that way. But I was looking on Amazon, you can actually buy a weighted vest that goes up to 140 pounds for about $300. So that's like a human
not
weight.
Bad.
So theoretically, you can buy this, wear this, and you are basically just like, I'm like 170 pounds, but 140 gets you close enough that you're basically just a normal person wearing a weird vest. The one weird thing is that even though you will have the like gravity effect of a 140 pound person, you will have the like lateral momentum of a 310 pound person in my case.
Oh, no.
Which is kind of fun. So you have to kind of get used to that. But otherwise, yeah, you know, I think you're going to have to like, I don't know how much time you can actually spend weightless. I couldn't figure out, there was no way to actually like, no one has done research on how long you could be weightless and not have like bone density loss. So I think you could do it part of the time and be okay probably, as long as you like, you know, run frequently and like lift weights frequently. You can get by pretty well with a weighted vest situation. But I think you would probably actually have some pretty severe problems if you try to just like be weightless all the time. So not quite as fun as we had maybe hoped, but livable, which is, you know, better than a lot of these go. So
yeah, I like the committing to the weightlessness, and then just knowing one day there'll be a stiff breeze that'll blow your brittle body like a tumbleweed into a brick wall.
And you will literally be wrapped around a tree.
Yeah, and you will crumple up around a tree, and that will be the end of you. You'll just be like a discarded plastic bag.
Yep.
Down the sidewalk.
You ever feel like a plastic bag?
I was going to say the same thing.
That's what that song's about.
You didn't have gravity.
Anyway, Chris, what do you have?
So the first question that popped into my mind was, would the Earth, because the Earth is rotating, would it rotate under you? And the answer is no.
Yay!
Awesome.
I realized that pretty quickly because of inertia. So you're already moving. So it's the same reason, like, if you jump, the Earth doesn't rotate under you. And if you're in, like, a helicopter, the Earth doesn't rotate under you. But the Earth is still rotating, and it's in a circle. So there is going to be some centrifugal force on you. Like outward force from the rotation. And you actually do weigh less at the equator than you do at the poles because of this. So I want to see, like, would this just, like, throw you into space, this force? So I looked at how much the force was from this, and it's actually not that much. It's only half a pound of force. So basically, the whole time, you're just going to have, like, this annoying half-pound force upward on you. And you could avoid it just by like going to the poles, or you could just deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. Your clothes actually weigh like 2.5 pounds, so they already counter it if you're wearing clothes.
Ooh.
Yeah. So next I wanted to see, because the Earth is also revolving around the sun. It's actually revolving at 67,000 miles per hour, which is pretty fast.
Pretty casual.
A little fast, yeah. Not bad.
The Earth goes from 0 to 67,000 in just under 3 millennia.
Yeah. And you're not going to... So it's also not going to move away from you because of this inertia thing. But you will still have centrifugal force from the revolution thing around the sun. But this is also super small. So because it's like you're really far away from the sun. So the force is actually only 0.09 pounds, which is negligible. It's like nothing.
That's like a sock.
Yeah. So
I forgot my sock. I'm floating into space.
So I was like, okay. So you're not gonna shoot out into space because of this. I got kind of disappointed because I was hoping to get shot out into space. So I was like, okay, what are some other ways I can shoot myself into space?
That was the end goal you wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Please say cannons. Please say cannons. Please say cannon.
Well, cannon came into mind. First, I looked at water, because usually when you're in water, you have a buoyant force going up, and your gravity is counteracting that. But you don't have gravity more, so it's just a buoyant force pushing up. So I wanted to see if you sink to the bottom of water, like using weights, and just let go while you like shoot up into space. So an average person is going to have 219 pounds of buoyant force, and usually your body weight, like an average person weighs like 160 to 200 pounds around there, so it counteracts pretty much all of that. You just have a little bit of buoyant force. But if all this is pushing on you, you're going to accelerate upwards at 13.5 meters per second squared, which is more than gravity.
Okay.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, this sounds like a good candidate for shooting into space. The problem is that water is dense. It's pretty dense. It's denser than air, and you're going to hit a terminal velocity. So like the water resistance when you're shooting up is going to counteract your buoyant force going down or going up. And it's actually your terminal velocity going upwards is only 10 miles per hour. So you're not going to go that fast.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So when you get out of the water, regardless of how far you go down, you're going to be going 10 miles an hour when you get out, which is something like you'll go up pretty high probably.
Yeah, because it's really just like air resistance holding you back at that point. But
yeah, so the thing is, I wanted to see if 10 miles an hour would actually get you to space because of air resistance. It
depends how many socks you're wearing.
For this whole thing, I was assuming you're naked.
In general, I generally assume people are naked in my hypotheticals.
Yeah.
So yeah, whenever we don't say clothes, just assume naked.
Yeah. So air resistance, it actually turns out that it's going to stop you 2,000 feet in the air. So you're not going to reach space. Space, like, there isn't really a set border for space, but it's generally known like 62 miles into the air around there.
Yep.
Is where space starts. And you're nowhere close to that.
And you're just stuck there, right?
Yeah, then you're just kind of stuck there.
It's like hoping for a bird to pass by and being like, bird!
And then it was like, okay, that's not going to get you to space. So I looked at the cannon. The cannon shoots you a little faster. I think the fastest cannon shoot, like human cannon shoot, it's actually not a cannon. It's like a spring. And they just use gunpowder as like for show.
Right.
But the fastest one was like 70 miles per hour, which is pretty fast. But the thing is with air resistance is if you're going faster, then air resistance is more.
Right.
So you still basically just stop in the same spot.
Aww.
Yeah. So you're not getting to space unless you have like a continuous force pushing on you upwards. You're like, if you just have one force at the beginning, then no other forces, you're not going to get to space.
The force is not strong with this one.
I guess you do have that like half-pound force going upwards, but not the best.
not the fastest.
Yeah. So at this point, I kind of just gave up. I didn't, because like At this point, I'm just getting into like rockets and like just use a spaceship.
Right. Yeah.
Just become an astronaut and use a spaceship, and you'll get there.
I mean, it would be a way to go. Like, if you get tired of life and you're on your last days, to go into the cannon, which would then destroy all your bones, and then just float through the air forever as a sack of bone splinters.
Well, so what's fun is that what I'm realizing is, well, like the cannon, if you're not shot straight up, any like lateral velocity you have, you're just, I guess it'll eventually run out of that too.
Yeah, for the
You still have
air
air
resistance,
resistance, yeah.
Yeah.
You can
So I
ride
guess
the
it'll drift with
currents.
the wind.
Yeah, the wind, you'll be like a cloud, basically.
Pretty much. A fleshy, bony
Every once in a
cloud.
while, someone will see you up in the air.
Looks like a really fucked up person.
Yeah,
It
Bobby,
is, Jimmy.
that looks like a fucked up person.
Why is he naked?
Yeah, that's basically all I had.
It's okay. You got us to the mental image of a floating, disheveled corpse flying
Floating
through the
naked,
air
yeah.
at
Yeah.
approximately 2,000 feet above the ground.
Yep.
And if it rains, I don't know what happens if it rains. Actually, how high up are clouds?
All the clouds. I think they're that high, and also lower, and also way higher.
Because if it rains, then the rain's going to hit you down, right?
Yeah, that's how you get down, I guess.
How high are clouds, Google?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
20,000 feet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, they'll hit you.
Oh, they don't produce rain, though.
Oh.
How high are rain clouds? No, not 20,000 feet, fucking Google. I just... Come on, storm clouds.
Storm clouds.
Stop loading ads so I can't read.
50,000? Wait, they can
50,000.
reach 50,000 feet. Well, what the fuck? That's not helpful.
It sounds like it's way higher than you're going to be.
Low-level okay, there are low-level clouds below 6,500 feet. They're often dense, dark, and rainy, so they could...
That's still way
Yes,
higher
it
than
is.
you are. You're 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna...
So eventually you'll come down when it rains. Or snows or
Yeah,
whatever.
eventually.
Exactly. Hopefully it doesn't hail. That would be not great. That'll just get rid of the rest of your bones.
Hey, fun fact. The Burj Khalifa is 2,700 feet.
Oh, so that's what will eventually stop you if you just get blown around for a while.
If you happen to get over there.
Yeah.
You'll eventually hit the Burj Khalifa at like the 132nd story.
That was the best Iliad scene from that Mission Impossible movie.
That was a good movie.
It's one of those background scenes you don't notice where it's just like you just hear a thud on the window, and if you look at that, like behind him in that one scene, you can
There's
just see
a floating naked guy.
this floating naked guy with all his limbs in the wrong directions.
Well, I think we've hit our quota just during mental images now, so...
Yeah, so much for that one being an optimistic one, guys, huh?
Yep.
So yeah, we can definitely try and be more optimistic next time on Absurd Hypotheticals. But if you want to complain about how non-optimistic we were, or about our facts, as they are so called,
Quote unquote.
If you want to
facts.
call them that. We don't.
yeah, well, every time I talk to someone about the show, they just basically just like, well, you know that one thing you said in that one episode.
We know we're wrong.
No, we don't. We think we're right. That's why we do research.
You think you're right.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I have the debate point that I can just shoot it right back at them. And we want to share that experience with everybody. So what we've done is we've set up on our Facebook page, we set up Absurd Hypotheticals. So pals, P-A-L-S at the end instead of culls, of hypotheticals. And if you go there, we will have a exclusive group where you can chat with each other, all the other fans, and also we will be participating. So we'll also be there to answer questions in, I don't know, maybe real time if we're online.
Who knows? Maybe Marcus will get mad at you and yell at you.
Yeah.
If you want to complain about the name Hypotheticals, excuse me, the name that I can't pronounce, it was my idea, so blame me. On the
Absurd
Facebook group.
Hypotheticals on Facebook.
So I think the official URL is www.facebook.com/groups/absurdhypotheticals.
Or go to our regular Facebook page and it's linked there.
I'll also
Yeah.
put it in the description, probably.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that'd be a good idea.
So check that out.
Yeah, and so if you don't check that out, you can still hear from us next week where we answer the following questions. What if every meal was Thanksgiving dinner? And what if stores were only open on Black Friday?